Greetings, welcome to the Lab 3 video walkthrough. Lab 3, we move into dynamic forms. So there will be a great deal of interaction between each of these elements and controls on the form and the server. There's no HTML page anymore. We're right on our ASPX page. Formatting is still done with external CSS. So let's first talk about what's on the form here, and these are all the pieces that we talk about in the ASPX page on the assignment, right? First name, last name, zip code, phone number, password, confirm password, email address, type of employee versus student radio buttons, a calendar control, as well as a text area to put the result of the selected date. One thing as we move through here to look at is the different type of messages that pop up, whether they're informative or error, when they pop up, and of course colors, right? So let me walk through this. So right now I've just come to the page. I haven't done anything. No error messages. We just see this form to fill. So if I go ahead and click submit, which I will do without filling anything out, we should see something happen, right? Because we're going to send that form in the first time and check for it. Start checking for things. And I do. Okay, so a bunch of blue text pops up basically explaining everything I forgot, right? Please enter your first name, please enter your last name, 5-digit zip, phone number, password, re-enter password, enter an email address, and I tell them it's got to be a .com, .net, or .org. I say that right there. Category, and then select your birth date from the calendar above. So I'm going to start filling this in. I don't know if some of the tooltips will pop up as I move through this. Hopefully we'll see them in the lab. I don't know if the video will pick this up. But let me go ahead and start entering this information and watch what happens. Oops. Okay. As you can tell, I've been through here a couple times, so it actually pre-filled some of it here. But let me delete some of this. All right, Bubba disappeared. I can go with last name now. 5-digit zip. Let me enter something incorrect. Okay. And okay, so we have our first true error message popping up and saying, hey, that was supposed to be a 5-digit zip code. So we made it a different color, and it popped up right when we entered something incorrect, right? Even if I have numbers, it's still not correct yet. I have to have a full zip code. So let me enter a... Okay, so that went away. Phone number, right? So let me just enter, a little bit of a phone number. No, please make sure to use the correct number format. I could have maybe put a format up here. My tooltip pops up and shows me as well as the format. So I'm going to go ahead and enter one. And it took that, right? And so that's great. Password. Now remember, we're going to validate our password later, okay? Because we have some items in our password. The zip code was 5 digits. The phone number format was one thing. But I want you to pay attention to password and email when these happen. All right, so let me just enter a password. We'll just make it simple. Two characters, right? So it's okay right now. Those messages are away. Now if I go back and change one of them, I get a new message. Your passwords do not match, right? So compare the two fields. But let me go ahead and just keep it the same. But notice no errors popped up because different type of validation going on here. Email address. Click off of it, and that went away too. So password and email, I'm doing a little bit differently in this example. All right. Let me go ahead and select the category. I'll do employee, and let me just say, let's keep it simple. Let's say, just go from this calendar here. I'm going to click that. Now, notice what happened. When I did click the calendar, right, a date, it did put it down here, 3/3/11. Okay, I'm very young, but the password field disappeared. This is how passwords function. Remember, view state's not kept on them. And so every time this form reloads, your password's going to go away. It's just how it's designed. It's a default security feature. We could turn it off, but that sort of defeats the purpose. So I'm going to go back and just enter some incorrect passwords that match. Okay. So I have no more error messages on my screen, right? I filled it out, no blue text, no red text, no purple text for the compare. So I'm going to submit. Now we know there's some things still incorrect. The password's definitely not minimum 8 characters, and it's definitely not more than 20, right? It has to have at least one uppercase, one lowercase, and one number. Okay, so regular expressions are going to play a big role in the password, as well as the email. It's got to be a valid email address, but it's got to be a .com or a .net or a .org. So regular expressions, although we used them before, they're even more powerful that we have to do within the password and the email. So when I hit submit, we're going to get some new messages. Okay, so now I have even bigger error messages popping up for myself here. And we have password needs to meet stated criteria. I just put that twice, and I say enter a valid .net, .com or .org. And I also have a new one. Please check your fields and try again. So these appeared, right? Became visible on the form when I submitted. All right. So let me go ahead and put a valid email address. Okay. Keep my date fine, and let me once again. I'll just do some short passwords. Okay. Now notice, even though I add stuff, this doesn't go away because remember, it happened after submit. So when I submit again, okay, I still get some errors. Well, what's wrong? Password's gone, of course, but well, it's a valid email, but .com, .net, or .org. So let me change this. Now notice, even if I do that and hit submit, it's another, it says, hey, you forgot to enter your password, right? So I do have to continually fill this stuff out. Okay, let me hit submit. Alright, so now I'm still just dealing with my password. Everything else is, is okay. So let me go ahead and make a password that meets the criteria. Let's see, I think I got that. It did. Okay, so everything just went through. And so I now have a login ID, and this is the string parsing for our output, right? We're going to create a login ID, an email, and a PIN, right? So since I selected staff, I have first name, last name for my email, right? My login ID, remember my login ID is created with the first letter of the first name, month of birth, it was March, and the first 3 letters of the last name. So B03 John, right? Jon. The PIN number of characters in the first name, plus number of characters in the last name, okay? And then the birth date. So I have 5 Bubba Jones, 5 Bubba, 5 Jones. That equals 10, right? My birth date was the 3rd, so I concatenated that on, right? So I've created this. Now, so this was the staff. I can go back here, right? And make this student instead. Okay, and it changes just a little bit here. We have a student email. Notice this is actually a real email address. I'm not going to click it and send it because it doesn't exist, but it is actually a hyperlinked email. Okay, so that's the walkthrough for Lab 3. There's a lot of bits and pieces that need to be in place. We'll go over this in class again. Make sure to look over this video, ask questions, and we'll go from there.